Hello, hello. Hello. Doing the most. It is I from the stairwell in Venezia, Italy, because my friend's baby loves me like I love her mother and like I love her, and if she sees me talking in the house, she will come and touch everything, which means we'll have no peace. So I'm here doing the reading in the stairway. Hello. Okay, so as stated in last month's monthly read and key cards is that I have to do the video separately so it records in high quality, and then I will answer questions separately. Yes? So let's see what cards want to be involved. Any other? Okay. So key cards, okay. So we have 3 tarot decks, different kinds, right? We have Manzel Bowman's tarot. We're familiar with Manzel Bowman. We have the tarot of Gemstones and Crystals, familiar with that too. And our key cards will come from Grandma Baby's Black Gold Lenormand tarot, which also came along for the ride. So let's see. Let's see who's who at the zoo. We're just gonna shuffle now. Hello everyone, welcome YouTubers. This is the monthly read from Sun Listel. On Patreon, I offer this service for any price, but the additional service for doing the most is that I pull a card for them every month, and an individual card for each person, and it is the most affordable way to get readings from me on a regular basis. So if you're interested, feel free to join my Patreon at the $10 a month subscription level, in which case you will find yourself having this directly, this video, but also being able to ask questions. Just now checking out which cards want to do what. Okay. Are these the listen cards? Okay, so Manzel Bowman's tarot are the listen cards. The tarot of Gemstones and Crystals will be the speak cards. What needs to speak for June? Ooh, there's one. What needs to speak for June tarot? Ooh. And what we do know is, or what I can say, and I don't know if I said this last time, though I think I did, is that I haven't been really reading cards reversed in like almost a decade, but it's not that long. It's probably 7 years. But recently, I've come into enough balance in myself. The cards have started, the tarot cards specifically, have wanted to start being read in reverse. I don't read oracle cards in reverse because it's like a just different energy. But I have begun reading tarot in reverse again, so we'll implement that as necessary. As you know, we have a 6-card spread. There is the left column, which is the speak column like my tattoo. There's the right column, which is the listen column like my tattoo. And then our last 2 cards are the key cards, either the skeleton key that unlocks all the doors, or the keystone that's holding up the whole building. So, Grandma Baby's Black Gold Lenormand. What is our, okay, that's our, and what is our keystone? Exciting. I saw that one. I got a little snack peek. Okay. What am I doing? Just singing random songs. Okay, so, wrong book. I'll put these here. So, here we go. Monthly read, doing the most. Y'all getting the monthly read at the same time again. Key cards will be pulled at a separate time, simply this month because I'm traveling because of Europe and I need to be convenes in time zones, and also respecting my friends' homes and spaces. Okay, so anything else needs to change? All is good. Okay, so in our speak column we have the 5 of Swords, not our fave friend to start with, and then we have the 9 of Cups. Okay. Now, to me, I think of the 5 of Swords as sort of a throwing in the towel card. Now, of course, some people can think of this as defeat, okay? It can be defeat, or it can be resignation, or it can just be like, what's the other thing? Like, endurance, right? Because one thing about the 5 of Swords is that there is the suggestion of a victor, right? Now, We can think of it maybe as the suggestion of a victor because it's swords, so it's intellect, it's ego, right? There's someone in the rider waite with three swords of the five, and then there's two other people sort of going off into the distance. Now, this could be a skirmish, this could be a retrieval of lost arms through a negotiation, of course. This can be an outright defeat. But I think something about the Five of Swords, and like any of the fives, which is some sort of internal struggle, right? Is this for me? Is this not for me? Is this true? Is this not true? Is this like, am I worthy? Am I not worthy? Or if we're thinking about the Five of Cups, you know, like, will I ever recover from this or will I not, right? So there's a quality in the Five of Swords where there's this energy which is simply suggesting, like, what will you make of the circumstances? What will you resolve to do based on what you perceive the outcome to be? It's not a singular outcome. It's not something that's so it's so nameable and easy to perceive. But when I see the Five of Swords, especially knowing that it's pearls, right, like, there is some agitation, right, that allows for some pearl of wisdom, okay? But it can just be agitation if you won't allow there to be a pearl of wisdom, right? Like, that's why I always say my plug is to ask yourself 3 questions, right? Like, when something negative happens, you ask yourself 3 questions. The first question is, what did I learn from this situation that I otherwise wouldn't have learned at this time, right? And the second question you ask is, if I were the versions of myself that I most preferred to be, how would that version of me or those versions of me have handled the situation differently than I have handled the situation myself, right? And then step number 3, or question number 3, is what can I go do with myself right now that I know I would prefer to be doing rather than fixating or marinating on this thing that already occurred that I can't change, but I also know that I don't prefer, right? So there's a quality here which is like, I can make the most out of my circumstances. Now, a masterful personality is going to use everything that happens to them to become more of themselves, right? That is why they are masterful. A limited personality is going to use everything that happened to them as a reason that they can't be who they most prefer to be. And a neutral personality is learning through osmosis, fucking around and finding out, doing things on a case-by-case basis. So you are going to decide where on that spectrum you're going to occupy in any circumstance or reality. And ideally, that's cohesive, or what I call dynamically neutral, right, with the Five of Swords, but it is an ego play. So there's a quality here where you have to really recognize, you know, what is worth salvaging, holding on to, and making up about the circumstances. Now, I was not allowed to bring my OG deck, the Herbal Tarot, to Europe because it didn't want to come, but it did let me bring the book, and I love this book for its description, so I'm just going to look at funny. It says Five of Swords is European mistletoe in the deck I don't have. And it says, if we're talking about upright, which it is, right, it could be realization of defeat, need to regain composure and inner peace after the fray, realization that there are no winners in war, right? Surrender, throwing in the towel, right? But in the reverse, if we're talking about that, it says a turning point in one's life, when one can either be honest with oneself or go deeper into deception. So there's an opportunity in the Five of Swords to like take accountability and to take ownership of what's happening, which brings us to the Nine of Cups, right? Because Cups is about emotional intelligence, it's about self-satisfaction, it's about knowing what our desires are and being able to fulfill our needs. And also, of course, if it was reversed, which it's not, the Nine of Swords can also be about people's perception of you being a selfish person, right? So why are you selfish with the Nine of Cups? Because you know how to satisfy yourself in a world where that's claimed to be impossible by the powers that be, but also made very difficult to do by the powers that be. So that if you know how to do it and you figured it out regardless of the circumstances, that people might think that it's because you're self-concerned and that you haven't like given enough of yourself to the woes of the world. This is a tricky one for June because it's like, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup and you do need to put your mask on first. So there's a quality with the Nine of Cups, which is like, you know, you need to figure out what it is for you, what you want to salvage from the situation, what you're going to surrender the situation. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to soothe yourself. You're the one that has to please yourself. You're the one who has to live with yourself. So it's like, if you can't figure out a place of equilibrium, regardless of the circumstances, and use everything that has happened to you, become more of what you want to become, then you put yourself in a situation where you do not know how to satisfy your own needs. And that is your job. it can be humanity's responsibility to give you a spectrum of how that job can be carried out, but it is your job to be yourself because you're the only one in there, and it is your job to figure out what needs doing, because I think of emotional intelligence as a 5-step process. Okay, step 1 is you feel away because you're a human being and it comes to the packaging. You do have to feel. Okay, step 2, even apathy is a feeling, huh? Step number 2 is recognizing you feel away because you're the only person in between your temples. You acknowledge those feelings, because if you gaslight yourself, you are already your number 1 problem. Okay. Step number 3 is recognizing you feel away. You think back on your personal history and you consider the people, places, locations, behaviors, and things that were around the last time you felt that way, if you've ever felt that way before. Okay. Step number 4 is the most important step. You either point at yourself in the mirror or between the eyes and you say, do I do the mirror now? Do I like feeling this way? And then you answer the question about whether you like feeling that way or not, because step 5 is I have to take an action now. So if I like feeling that way, then I will invoke more of the people, places, locations, behaviors, and things that help me feel the way that I prefer to feel, right? But if I don't like feeling that way, the action I'll take is that I will invoke less of the people, places, locations, behaviors, and things that make me feel ways I don't prefer to feel, right? Because emotional intelligence cannot be about controlling the circumstances. That is delusional. You are not capable of controlling the circumstances because you did not create the circumstances, right? You did not single-handedly create the circumstances because you are not existence, and therefore it is not for you to control them. However, you do create how you choose to feel about the circumstances based on your understanding of existence, humanity, Earth, yourself. And so emotional intelligence is about taking the responsibility for what you actually are responsible for to the best of your ability, right? So if I know how I prefer to feel, then I can navigate all the circumstances in my life in the direction of my preference, as opposed to taking all these detours into ways I don't want to feel that are a result of also actions I don't want to be involved in or things I don't want to do, right? Because if I perpetuate actions that help me feel the way I don't prefer to feel, that I don't have to perpetuate, meaning like there's not an actual fucking gun to my head, or I'm not in a place or in a state of being where I literally know nothing else and know better, then, if I don't give myself liberation from those circumstances, then I too, again, am the problem there. And that's the 5 of Swords trick. It is really about what you choose to salvage from the circumstances. Now, that's speaking, okay? That's what existence is telling us or needs to be said on our part. Now, did the listen cards want to change? No, they don't. So now we move on to Manzel Bowman's tarot. Again, we can repeat stories. Ooh, Ace of Cups reversed. Makes sense. We'll talk about that in a second. I'll show it to you right side up because it's pretty. It's reversed. Okay. And 9 of Cups. 9 of Cups 2 times. If you don't satisfy yourself, don't demand anything. Also, just mad cups, okay? So obviously we're moving from Gemini season into Cancer season in June. We can tell that it's summer. People are going to be in their feelings and shit. Now, aces are boons. I read my aces high. They're above the king. I don't read them before the 2. They end the suit. They don't begin the suit. I think that the aces is the bridge to the major arcana. It's really the enlightenment of that suit and figuring out how you want to make that a part of your vocational or spiritual purpose as a relation to the major arcana. And then, as a lot of people say, I think of the ace as an advantage, even if it's reversed, because it's some intelligence or some skill that you have that cannot be taken away from you unless you relinquish it yourself. Now, I assign a pop culture figure to all my aces, and the Ace of Cups is Bjork, okay? Bjork is like, oh, you don't like my Icelandic guttural music album? I don't give a fuck, right? Because she made it for her own interests. She made it for her own emotional intelligence, her own emotional expression. By the time you're hearing a Bjork album, she has already gone through millions of processes as to get that to you that are personal. And it is only out because she has checked every box of that personal satisfaction, right? So by the time you get it, if you don't like it, then she's like, well, it wasn't for you. And this is the aspect, this is the fucking linchpin and the most cruxy part of emotional intelligence. You're not for everyone. Shocking, I know, but it's the facts. So people pleasing and trying to be universally likable and trying to be the most popular person on earth, like, this is not your job. This is no one's job, in fact. And Ace of Cups is reversed here in the listen column is like, look, you don't even know how to do things for your own satisfaction. So how the fuck are you going to satisfy other people? Now, you can satisfy them by denying yourself, or you can satisfy them by them fostering quality things in yourself. But the point is, you're your responsibility. You're not attached to anyone unless you actually are, unless you're a conjoined twin, right? So it's like, even if someone is an incredibly positive influence on you, their job is to be themselves, and they are going to die. And so it's not their job to maintain that energy for you. They gave you an example. They gave you a system of fostering that you can develop from, and then they go on to be accountable to their own lives, as you should as well. So it's like the Nine of Cups is back here to say, look, like, if you will not take responsibility for your self-satisfaction, don't be surprised that you're not satisfied. Who is better? Who is in there with you to make a better decision for you? Even conjoined twins do not want the same things. Actual twins don't want the same things. Conjoined twins don't want the same things. And they're about as close as you can actually get physically to another person in terms of being attached to them, okay? So it's very important to understand that if even attached people have detached experiences, that that is inevitable and that is also natural, okay? So, and Nine of Cups can be also about being greedy, but they're not reversed. So to me, it's like, you gotta figure out what matters for you, what makes you feel a sense of equilibrium and like presence, peace in yourself, okay? So, our key cards do not want to change. We have the Skeleton Key and the Keystone, both from Grandma Baby's Black Gold Lenormand. So, okay, so for the Keystone, first, so the Master Key, we have the 9. Yeah, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we have the 9 of Diamonds, and it's Broom and Grandma Baby's Black Gold Lenormand, and it's number 9 in the deck. So I'm gonna read, and it's reversed as well. So let's read the energy with the intention at hand. It's number 9. Nope. Okay, can't read. 5, 6, 7. Oh, it's number 8. It's Roman numerals. Okay. So it says, Broom, release. 9 of Diamonds, element Earth. A popular end of year ritual for inviting new energy into your home, particularly that of abundance, is to sweep out all of the old that can no longer serve you. And we do this with the broom. If you find yourself released from a situation or relationship, understand that this too was necessary for growth. Life is not some big event capped suddenly by death, but a series of deaths and rebirths, endings and beginnings designed to shape us and move us forward. To accept this, the natural and inevitable part, release and lost play, will enrich your life, right? So it's like, this is reversed. So the thing that's keeping all the doors locked is that we will not accept when people are actually consensually willing to trust us, believe us, involve themselves with us, collaborate with us, communicate with us, right? There is this obsession in humanity in bending everyone under the same will. And there's beauty in allowing diversity and individuality and not forcing, cohabitation or collaboration. You know, I go back to Star Trek about this, every species has its cultural mores, and a part of the Prime Directive is one to do no harm to the natural development of other people. Existence made everybody. It made everyone you think shouldn't exist. It made everyone you think should exist, and it made everyone you don't think about. So knowing that existence has co-signed all these things, we also know that existence is taking care of all these things. And knowing that existence is taking care of all these things includes knowing that even if you don't agree with someone, existence is having its own relationship and conversation with that person, and it's not your responsibility to take existence's role in that person's life. You are not the arbiter of whether someone should exist or not, just like no one is the arbiter of whether you should exist or not. So it's this toxic people pleasing, this wanting to be universally likable, this wanting to be the most popular motherfucker in the room, the most universally acceptable person, that is really ruining humanity, because it's not actually required that everyone has to get along in order for us to move forward. And even if that were required, it would be a result of us actually letting people be who they are that would allow for the natural collaboration to take place. We're not yet there. And so we experience the toxic negative aspects of that insistence. Now, our keystone doesn't want to change. Ooh, it is La Mirror. The Mirror, which, I don't know, it just has a thing in the card, but it really goes to show. Look at yourself. Okay, hold on. It has no number, so let me go to the front of the book and see if it says anything about this. I don't think there's a description for the mirror card. I'm going to keep looking as I talk about it. But it really, it's like you need to tend to yourself. And I think people really underestimate the power of leading by example. They don't believe in self-empowerment. People don't believe in self-empowerment as a means of motivation. There's, and I was seeing something about like Isaac Asimov talking about this in an interview where someone was saying, without the threat of God, people will be terrible. Isaac Asimov is an atheist, which I'm not, and his opinion was like, why do you think that without a God, that we have no morality, that we have no ethics? Why can't you just imagine that I would do terrible things because it makes me feel better, but also because I don't want worldly harm to come to me, right? So there's this quality of like, why do you imagine that what you do is not convincing enough? Like what, and maybe why it is that maybe true for your life is because you haven't done enough of what it is for you to do to be convincing to yourself, right? Like if I'm not doing it for me, who am I doing it for? And if I'm doing it for them, who asked me? And did I ask them to tell me what they wanted me to do? Like you have to figure out what you're doing consensually and what you're not doing consensually. Something that one of my teachers, Bashar, always says is like, you don't look in the mirror and say in the mirror, smile, you stupid bitch. Like you have to smile to get the reflection of that. You have to love life to be reflected back that you're lovable and that life is lovable. You have to appreciate humanity to be reflected back that there's humanity to appreciate. So if you can't do what you're asking of others with yourself, you really are an amateur. And like you need to begin at the beginning, which is like, yes, fucking up and finding out, but also investing in yourself. You need to take the energy and the time to invest in your own interests, your self-satisfaction. And if you're unwilling to do that, then you're always going to project or be projected upon without any sort of buffer for your progressive identification or your ability to really inhabit and be present